Aliens Explored is a weekly podcast exploring famous and obscure cases of UFO sightings, alien abductions and other strange events from both a believing and a sceptical perspective whilst keeping an open mind. I'm Stu Jackson, a professional actor and amateur ufologist with a particular interest in the crop circle phenomenon. I'll be debating that otherworldly visitations are real. The truth is out there.
And I'm Neil Kelly. I'm a professional actor as well and used to work for the military as an intelligence analyst. I'll be arguing from a more doubtful point of view. I mean, it's all a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
The famous Southern Illinois incident occurred on January 5th, 2000, when the so-called St. Clair Triangle was seen in the night skies over numerous populated areas. But what are these black triangle forms? Can they be explained away as a trick of the light caused by atmospheric conditions or by meteor showers? Could they be terrestrial in origin, new secret military aircraft going through test trials? Or are they indeed visitors from worlds beyond our own? Join us on Aliens Explored as we discuss the extraordinary sightings of almost exactly 21 years ago to the day.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Aliens Explored with me, Stu Jackson.
And me, Neil Kelly.
And do you know what? We forgot to do something in the last episode, which went out on New Year's Day. We forgot to wish our listeners a Happy New Year.
So, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year indeed. Bit of a peek behind the curtain. We do record these a little bit in advance. So for us, we haven't actually gotten to the new year yet. So I'm hoping it's everything that everybody's predicting, that the world will be a completely different place just because the clocks have turned over.
Yeah, because they were saying, 2020's been really shit. I can't wait for 2021.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it doesn't work like that. You can't just turn a page of the calendar and it.
A lot of people seem to be hanging their hopes on it, though. Which fair enough.
Well, 2020 started badly anyway, didn't it? With it, coming to realise what kind of government had been elected just before Christmas and how ragingly inept and corrupt and incompetent and. Yeah, self-serving. They government we've elected,
and murder hornets. Don't forget the murder hornets.
And the murder hornets. Yeah,
we forgot about the murder hornets.
Yeah, they've kind of been. Yeah, what happened to them? Was it something that was all blown out of all proportion?
Yeah, and the country's on fire. Yeah, but anyway. We're in 2021 now, so the world's a completely different place. Apparently.
Absolutely. Welcome to the future, everyone. This is.
And we're 3 minutes in, and we've already digressed.
Yes.
We haven't even said what we're talking about. But in keeping with it being early January, we're going back 20 years, and we're going over to the United States of America, to Illinois. So in Illinois, January the 5th, 2000, is quite a famous UFO encounter at the time.
At the time, yeah, it certainly got a lot of coverage. It was called the Clair Triangle, the UFO over Illinois, the Southern Illinois UFO, or Highland Illinois UFO, sighted on January the 5th over the towns of Highland, Dupont, Lebanon, Shiloh, Summerfield, Millstadt and O'Fallon, Illinois, shortly after 4 a.m. The incident was featured in several television shows, including Seeing is Believing, a Discovery Channel special, UFOs over Illinois, and an episode of the sci-fi series Proof Positive. Sufjan Stevens included this incident in the song concerning the UFO sighting near Highland, Illinois, from his 2005 album Illinois. So that's straight from Wikipedia.
So given how famous it is, the question I'm going to ask you, Neil, had you heard of it before?
No.
So,
but it was 2005. It was 15 years ago. So
2000.
Oh, sorry, 2000. Yeah, 2000. So 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago, but a very famous case. And let's face it, you were around 20 years ago.
I was definitely around 20 years ago, yeah. What was I doing 20 years ago? I was actually, I just got a nice job. I left a really bad job in June 2000, one that I hated, and got one that I really liked in September 2000. And I thought, this is the one for me. This is what I want to do. And I was made redundant in June 2001, and that was
okay. Now, the thing I'm intrigued to hear. So there's been quite a few of these cases that we've talked about in general, where as a person new to UFO culture, you'd not heard of them, yet you find out how famous these things are. Does it... I don't want to lead your comments. I think I'd be struggling to do so if I tried, to be honest. But does it strike you as a bit odd that there are some of these really big, famous things happening that you just never heard of?
Well, my media studies kicking in. I know the media work to an agenda that certain... mainly tabloid newspapers set the agenda, which the broadcast news the broadcast news follow that agenda largely. So there are certain things that just don't make the news, especially if they're things that don't interest them or don't serve their interests. I don't think this comes into that category. I think this is... I don't know, this is more about, it's just another sighting in the sky, just another UFO sighting. And, well, there have been a lot of them, so I guess they don't really make the news anymore.
I find that terrifying.
Well, certainly the President of the USA releasing footage of UFOs and kind of tacitly admitting that, we've been visited, or appearing to admit that, that's news. I can see that, but just people seeing something in the sky and reporting it, which can't be verified, doesn't. We seem to have got used to it, since UFOs are first sighted in just after the Second World War, or before.
Well, I'm going to swing that straight back round to. So you said somebody saw it and it can't be verified. Well, here's a circumstance that's not just one person. And in fact, amongst the people who saw it, you've got 4 police officers.
Yeah.
Who saw it. You've got photographic evidence.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, and it remains a huge mystery to this day. I mean, why more people aren't talking about it is, I find quite kind of strange.
Yeah. I guess the people who listen to our podcast will be talking about it because they're interested in those things, and maybe it has become that. It's like a crop circle that won't make the news either, but it's of interest to people who are interested in crop circles.
Maybe it's an interesting thing anyway. The side sort of the psychology, cultural psychology of it. I find it a bit odd.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are publications where it does appear. I'm sure it's mentioned in publications like the Fortean Times. But no, I can see how it wouldn't make a daily newspaper, especially if it happened in another country. Now there are reports of such sightings of these black triangle UFOs being spotted in the UK. And there was a wave of them. Again, I'm reading from Wikipedia, a declassified report from the UK Ministry of Defence addressing unidentified aerial phenomena. Is that just what they call? They don't want to call it UFO. They want to call it UAP.
Yes.
I guess maybe it's a more accurate, or it's a more generalised term, isn't it? It's saying we've seen something in the sky. It might have looked like an object, but it might not necessarily have been an object. And that's what they're saying about these black triangle sightings, which is the kind that was seen over Illinois on January the 5th, 2000. The report includes the statement that the majority if not all of the hitherto unexplained reports may well be due to atmospheric gaseous electrically charged buoyant plasmas that are capable of being transported at enormous speeds under the influence and balance of electrical charges in the atmosphere.
Right.
And at least some of them likely arise from meteor entry into the atmosphere.
I think so. I'm looking at the photograph of this Illinois UFO, triangular craft with a central light and a light on each of its points, very clearly defined. That's really not gas. Now,
it looks like there is some kind of object in between. So, as you said, what we're looking at is a triangle with a light slightly off centre. I mean, if it's flying downwards towards the bottom of the picture, well, not crashing into the ground, but it was spotted by from under because it flew overhead, taken from behind almost. So that central light is nearer to the front light, which actually looks like flames.
I think perhaps you're looking at a different photo to me.
Right, but I can also see a fifth light, which is much smaller and diminished. But I can see what looks like an object. I mean, it looks like the light is reflecting something that's in there. And you seem to have disappeared. Are you still there?
Yes. No, I'm still here. For the benefit of our listeners.
Oh, you're showing me a picture.
I'm actually showing Neil, because we're recording remotely because of safety for COVID.
Okay.
So that's the photo I'm looking at, Neil. Is that the same one you're looking at?
Yeah. Can you see my cursor? No, you probably can't. Can you?
No, I can't.
Right.
No, you're not sharing your screen.
No, but you see that those two lights that are sort of in the centre.
Mm-hmm.
If that picture was taken from behind, well, there was a third lesser light behind that.
Okay.
But that might have been a reflection of something, or. But at least one of those lights looks like the tail fire of jet aircraft. But then it'll be going in the wrong direction.
Well, there's that.
Maybe it is going in that direction.
The speed it was moving, which has been calculated at about 55 kilometres an hour, that's a bit slow for a jet aircraft, isn't it?
55 kilometres per hour, yeah. It is very, very slow for a jet aircraft. I imagine only one with hovering capability like a Harrier or the modern equivalent would have the capability to fly so slowly without dropping out of the sky.
Yeah, so I think we can rule out...
Or an A-10 Warthog, a ground attack aircraft that can fly at that speed.
Okay. So this is an interesting... Let's say you've got these really high quality witnesses. You've got 4 police officers having seen it. You've got this photographic evidence. I mean, thoughts, decry it,
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, it's... I mean, this report by the UK Ministry of Defence states that occasionally it seems that a field with as yet undetermined characteristics can exist between certain charged buoyant objects in loose formation, such that, depending on the viewing aspect, the intervening space between the lights looks like a solid object because because light is not being reflected. But in your picture, that's definitely a craft, isn't it?
Yeah. I would say that's nonsense. I can understand what they're talking about. Like, so if we look back at a previous episode, the Phoenix Lights, I can see how that could apply there, but this is not the case here. This is definitely clearly defined with sharp edges. It's
yeah. Yeah, it looks like, I mean, they say there's been a wave of these black triangle sightings. I can imagine that they're not all caused by the same phenomena.
Well, it is a subcategory of UFO types, the triangular craft, but there are many different varieties within that category. And I'm more than happy to acknowledge that, yes, some of those are going to be man-made objects, some of them are going to be natural events. So that's really the idea here, is to talk about it so we can determine, was this a man-made object? Was it a natural event? I think, looking at the photographic evidence that I've seen and the testimony from the witnesses, I think it's very easy to rule out a natural occurrence. It's definitely an object of some description. It's definitely under actual control. It made course corrections as it was seen. I think it's fair to rule out secret craft, because if you've got a secret experimental craft, like for the military, you're not going to fly it over a populated area where it's going to get seen.
You would think they wouldn't. You would think they wouldn't. You would think they'll be very, very restricted to testing areas, and they've got enough of them.
Exactly,
America,
and especially in America, where they've got
place.
so much space. Yeah,
I mean,
it's
you wouldn't be able to do that in
here.
the UK.
No, it is much more difficult here, but I would think they would, perhaps take them out to see and test them. But
I mean, I know that our army, if they want to really train using live ammunition, I mean, you do an awful lot of training firing blanks and whatever. But if they want to train troops for a proper full-on assault with the soldiers have got live rounds in their rifles, they've got artillery support, they've got tanks firing rounds, they've got air support, whatever. They have to go to Canada for that. There's nowhere in Europe that you can do that, because there's no. You fire a high velocity round. That's gonna eventually come into contact with someone, because there just isn't the room.
No, indeed. So that's so, to my mind at least, we can rule out military experimental aircraft,
unless it was one that unless they have actually gone totally rogue and just saying, well, sod it, we're the military, we'll go where we like, we'll do what we like, we don't care about your air traffic control. I mean, it'd be hugely irresponsible.
Well, as much as this thing was seen, I believe it wasn't seen on radar.
Yeah. But, the US military in particular has spent billions developing craft that can't be seen on radar.
Oh, yes.
That's what the stealth bombers and fighters were supposed to be.
And even that, it's not that they can't be seen at all, as I understand it.
They have a low radar.
They still have to be careful how they fly the thing.
Well, if you see an enemy aircraft with your naked eye, it's too late to do anything really.
But I honestly don't think this is what we're looking at here. I know we have delta-winged craft, but there is still a clear delineation between the wings, and they have to have a tail. They've still got a fuselage of sorts.
Yeah, they'd have a fuselage, because that's where all the command and control is. But that can be incorporated into the. You could just have a triangle shape and a central part that. From the outside, it's not obviously a fuselage, but effectively it is.
And all the aircraft that have taken place like that have been extremely long, very large wingspans, and they've still had tails.
Yeah, but I don't know how much they can get away with. They've found all sorts of. I mean, I think with some of the drones we've seen, the military drones, they don't have tails in the normal sort of way. I think, we have seen some that are just a flying wing, effectively.
Okay, but again, you're talking a long wingspan, so it's not a. I mean, this what we're looking at here is an equilateral triangle, and the ones with the wingspans, the Delta aircraft, they're long, thin things.
Yeah,
they're not equilateral triangles. They wouldn't be able to get the lift.
No.
with an equilateral triangle. So there's something else, clearly, some non-standard propulsion with this thing.
Yeah.
Even if it's man-made, I'm willing to. It's a new year and it's a new attitude.
Yeah.
I'm willing to accept that there are some man-made things.
I'm willing to. Yeah, perfectly willing to accept that the military are developing or experimenting with concept aircraft, or particularly the military, and that they wouldn't want to announce them. But then they wouldn't fly them somewhere where people could. A lot of people are going to see them, like flying it over a city.
Absolutely, and bear in mind this technology would now be 20 years old as well. So while it can take a long time, I know they denied the whole stealth bomber thing for a long time after it had been seen. But 20 years is an awful long time to not see any signs of this tech, because it's clearly a different form of technology to normal aircraft.
I remember after the space shuttle blew up in '86, what was it? The
Challenger.
The Challenger blew up. That one of the comments made was that, of course, they're all based on old technology. It takes so long to develop these things, from when you conceive it to when it's actually there. That could be 15 or 20 years. So by the time it's actually there, it actually exists and it's flying. Well, that's based on technology that's 15 years old. I mean, it's not often, but I can imagine the military. In some areas they would have the scope, the possibility of incorporating new technologies as they're developed. But that's always very risky. I mean, I've worked on IT projects where you're trying to get this project off the ground, and there'll always be some bright spark technician, engineer saying, "Oh, well, we can do this or we can do that. It's not in the original spec. This is all new stuff that people, gee whiz stuff that you've read about. All right, it's available, but we can't just put all these new bells and they want to put all these bells and whistles on things to make them sort of super duper and fun. But no, we need to worry about delivering the basic system, the thing that will work, the thing that will meet the business need that was originally identified. But that's the thing with technicians, engineers. You have to rein them in. That's what a project manager does. Say no, that's not what. This is the spec. This is what you'll create. This is what you'll make. But I can imagine with the military, blue sky thinking.
Well, yeah, but let's say this was a different type of craft with a completely different type of propulsion system. I mean, like you said, they're not going to be flying over a populated area, even if that's the case. Not on
purpose, not unless they lost control of it.
They were doing
let go of the string of their kite.
And even then, you look, there's a city there. Right, well, turn left to avoid the city then. I mean, you've got visual confirmation. It's 4 a.m, so that, the sun's coming up. You're bound to have lights. I find it hard to believe that this was just an accident. And it was... And it was over the city for such a long time as well. It wasn't just seen and then, it's winked out, it's gone. This was an extended period of time, which is how they were able to calculate its speed at around 55 kilometres an hour.
So, accepting that it is actually visitors from another world, another dimension or whatever, what would be their thinking of that? They think, okay, we're over a populated area, they can plainly see us, and we don't care because there's nothing they can do about us. They can't shoot us down or anything like that. We can just mess with them. We can just... or we can just observe them and not care about the fact that they see us because we don't care.
Well, that's applying human thinking. That's applying human psychology. I think it would be almost impossible for us to tell the motives or the reasons for patterns of behaviour for otherworldly beings because they're exactly that, otherworldly.
I can imagine the captain of the ship saying, "It's all right, they can't see us because we're in stealth mode." And the engineer says, "Oh, when did we decide stealth mode? Because we've been here for an hour now. I didn't switch it on."
They forgot to switch on the cloaking device.
Are you sure you told me that?
I love this idea you've got that it's just a farce in space. I like
Well, yeah, I like to think anything's a farce because it helps me deal with the world.
Oh, I can relate to that. And I'm sure many of our listeners can too. So let's summarise what we think about the January 2000 Illinois UFO. So Neil, I mean, what do you reckon? Is it an otherworldly craft?
I don't know. I mean, the picture you showed me is the most compelling evidence I've seen of an otherworldly craft, but I can't rule out that its origins are terrestrial. But yeah, what would it be doing there without anyone? You can't just fly aircraft wherever you like. I mean, my brother bought me a drone for my birthday. There's nowhere I can fly it around here. I'd get in real trouble. So flying a large aircraft over a city, yeah, I can imagine it's very. I imagine the paperwork's a nightmare. As opposed to other phenomena, whether it is just normal aerial plasma and magnetic fields, or whether it's atmospheric conditions. I mean, that looks like a craft. That definitely looks like a craft. No mistake.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's heading away from us. That picture's been taken from below and behind. But don't know. I mean,
with an equilateral triangle, how could you possibly know?
I mean, maybe one of the advantages of having an equilateral triangle shape like that is that you can suddenly fly off in any direction.
Yeah, could be.
You can just suddenly, that's how you change direction so fast, because you don't have to actually turn the thing. You just suddenly decide that, oh, actually this other point of the triangle is the front. We'll go that way. Is the nose.
Yeah, possibly.
So, yeah, I can't dismiss it. I can't say, well, that's nothing. Well, that's just whatever.
So the jury's out for you then.
The jury's out. Yeah, I mean the picture I'm looking at on the Wikipedia page, which could be the same craft, but all you can really see are the lights with some suggestion of some sort of form between them. Yeah, with that I could say, well, yeah, that could be aerial phenomena. That could be aircraft flying in formation. But yours is a bit more.
Well, I'm absolutely convinced that this one's otherworldly. I mean, Calcipre's right.
Of course, yeah. So where did your picture come from?
This is one of the photos that was taken by one of the police officers, I believe.
Because it looks like whoever took it was also in the air. Like they were flying.
I think they were up high at the time.
Yeah, because you can see the city below. So
yeah.
That photo looks like a very real UFO. So.
Exactly, and we've ruled out it being it's an optical illusion. We think it's highly unlikely that it's a military experimental aircraft. It has been put forward that it was most likely a blimp because of its speed and the sound it was making. Well, to my knowledge, you don't get triangular blimps. And it's also interesting to note that the blimp companies have all been contacted who were operating at the time, and none of them had records of any craft flying at that time.
Yeah, and so that would be on air traffic control as well.
Exactly, and there's no records whatsoever. People have tried to pass it off as a blimp. Oh, well, that's obviously what it is, so shut up. No. No, it's not as simple as that. Like I say, these amazing quality witnesses as well. I know I use the term smoking gun probably more than I should.
Yeah.
But I really think this is pretty evidential stuff.
I mean, what we said earlier about some of these UFOs, they're invisible to radar, but people have seen them. there was a wave, what was called the Belgian wave, between 1989 and 1992. Black triangle UFOs have been claimed to be visible to radar. During the Belgian UFO wave, 2 Belgian Air Force F-16s attempted to intercept an object detected by radar, but the pilots couldn't see it.
Right, so that was the opposite way round.
The other way round, yeah, but the entire Belgian UFO wave, however, has been disputed by skeptics. Well, actually, I think all UFO sightings have been disputed by skeptics. That's in their nature. So
that's part of the course. Skeptics not believing something. Well, I never. But okay, but what do you think, listeners, of the Illinois UFO incident? Are you with me that it's an absolute given that this is otherworldly? Are you with Neil sitting on that fence? Mind you, don't get splinters there. Or do you believe it's absolute tosh and completely explainable? Do let us know in the usual places.
If you actually do know, if you're in on it and you know, we'd love to hear.
If you were the pilot, we want to hear from you. Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, as yet no pilot has come forward and claimed it, despite it being a famous case. So that, I think, adds to its mystery. But yeah, so do write in and let us know. And let us know if there's any subjects as well, any incidents that you would particularly like us to discuss. Perhaps anything that's happened to you or your family. We would love to hear from you. Don't forget to join us next time when we will be going back to the Old West.
Cowboys versus aliens.
Cowboys versus aliens in the truest sense of the word. We will be going back to Aurora and an incident of a spaceship crashing, the occupant living quite happily amongst the people, and it being well documented as well. Back in the Old West days.
Back in the Old West.
Fantastic. So do join us for that one. In the meantime, keep watching those skies. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Aliens Explored is a Figo Films production in association with Juicy Falls. Music by hooksounds.com and editing by Stu Jackson. Find us on Facebook and Twitter or by visiting aliensexplored.com.